What's up, everybody? This is Russell. Welcome back to the podcast or the YouTube channel, wherever you guys are watching this on. I hope you guys are having a great day today. I'm recording this right now as I'm about to leave and jump in a plane to fly to Funnel Hacking Live, the 10th and the last ever Funnel Hacking Live. And I've been at the office all day today. It's a Saturday. I'm working on my slides, my presentations, trying to get everything perfect for you guys who are going to be there. And I just wanted to stop and record this podcast and this video because I've got this core thing on my head that I wanted to share. I don't think I've ever shared this in this way before, but it is the secret to how we created a movement, okay? And there's two core things you have to be able to create a movement of people who are gonna follow you. You have a chance to change their life. And so I'm gonna walk through what those two things are, because if you understand these, like, it'll change everything for you, right? Most people, when they start a business, they have these product-based businesses where we're selling a product versus like creating an actual movement and like, how are we gonna move people and change people? And like, now through that process, you've been growing, right? And so that's the first half of business, the growth side, right? And you went through those problems, those issues. And the reason why you went through them, right, is because you learned something. You learned now how to serve someone who's just like you, right? I think about business all the time. I talk about how business is contribution, right? You have growth and then you contribute, right? And contribution is now going back to the people who were just like you 5 years ago before you got started, right? You're taking all the lessons you learned, both the positive, right? The pain that you got going to the gym, like the positive pain, but also the negative pain and the trials and like the issues you went through. And you learned through all that process. You came out the other side unscathed. Maybe you're scathed a little bit, but you came out the other side as a better person, right? You grew, and now your business is about contribution, going back and helping those people. And those are the people I'm most passionate about serving, is the people, entrepreneurs who are doing that, right? Who are in that phase of the business right now. That's really what I want to talk about during this podcast, is like, not like, here's how to start a business, but like, if you actually want to build a movement of people where you're going to find these people that God's called you to help, right? You're going to gather those people together. And again, these people are people who are just like you 5 years ago. You're going to gather them together and you're going to change their life. How do we actually do that? Okay. And there's a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of things, but there are two core ones that I've been thinking about a lot today that I want to share with you. The very first one, and this is interesting. I remember I have my category Kings group, which is like $150,000 a year. And we had some guys coming in and they were asking specifically about like, should I write a book? Should we not write a book? Da, da, da. And I remember I shared something just kind of as an afterthought. I wasn't thinking about it. And then like a month later, I saw it on their podcast, their Instagram channel, like that it was like one of those big like mic drop moments for them. And I was like, oh, it kind of is. And so they asked me, like, should we write a book? What I told them, I said, if you think about it, every great mass movement throughout time and history always started with a book. Okay, think about this. I think about at least the major religions that I know about, right? I think about Christianity. It led with the book, the Bible, boom, right? Think about again, I'm Mormon, so the Mormon faith, right? It started with the Book of Mormon. You think about Islam, like every major mass movement started with the book, right? When I launched the ClickFunnels business, right? We had ClickFunnels, we had the software, and luckily at the same time I was writing a book with my thoughts and ideas about how to build funnels, and boom, on the backside of launching ClickFunnels, out came Dotcom Secrets. This was the book that started the movement, right? I remember we launched ClickFunnels, I think it was like September we launched. We did an initial launch in during the summertime. We let a group of people in, we closed it down. And then in September we did the official launch. People started coming in. It was crazy. People came in and like they used the software, it didn't stick. Like we couldn't get people to stick, couldn't get people to sign up. And it was tough, right? And this is the time where I'm thinking about creating a movement versus just selling software. In fact, I had this really cool experience. Some of you guys know David Fry. He's one of my friends and mentors. And David was in a network marketing company with me at the time. There's a company called Send Out Cards. Some of you guys may remember Send Out Cards. But I was in this company and I'd promoted it. Like I'd never actually been to an event. And David's like, you have to come to me. You have to see what this is like. And so I come to this event. It's in Salt Lake City and it's a 3 or 4 day event. I'm sitting there and, I'm there. Like I'm used to going to marketing events. I'm there with a pad of paper, Dan Kennedy event. So I'm there with a pad of paper, ready to take notes. I'm sitting there the first day and like, first people get up on stage, they're telling their story and then they're crying. And then next people get on stage, they're telling their story, they're crying. And then someone gets up and they get an award and then someone else gets an award. And I'm like, what is happening? I'm like so confused. Like day number 1, no notes. Day 2, day 3. And by day 3 or day 4, I remember Dave leaned over to me. He's like, do you see what's happening? I was like, no, I have no idea what's happening right now. And he goes, they didn't create a software company. They created a movement. And it was like boom. So for me, right? Fast forward a year later, I've got this new software company called ClickFunnels, and I'm trying to figure out how to sell it as a SaaS company. I'm looking at what are all the big SaaSes doing. I'm trying to model them, right? So we're funnel hacking these SaaS companies and we're struggling. Nothing's working. Nothing's converting. It's too expensive to acquire leads. Like everything was just not working. And then all of a sudden that light bulb hit my head from David Fry. Like they don't have a software company, which it was. Send Out Cards is a software company. Log in and you type a thing, you click send, it sends a card to somebody. It's software, right? It's like they don't have a software company. They built a movement. And I started thinking, oh, that's the difference. How do I build a movement, right? And luckily, again, at the time, I'd been writing this book for a decade, right? This was like, for me, the decade prior to ClickFunnels, I was I was learning these principles. I was doing them. I was having so much fun building funnels and trying these things out. And I was going to these events and teaching and talking about it and sharing what was happening. I started I always wanted to write a book. In fact, I remember it was almost 10 years. It was like 10 years before I ever wrote Dotcom Secrets. I was in an event, and it was Armor Morin's event. And I remember they kept talking about writing your own book. And then I remember David Hancock, who owns Morgan James Publishing, he was there, and he was like, Russell, you should write a book. I was like, I should write a book. So I paid him to help me to write a book way back then. And then I remember I met Brendan Bouchard the very first time. Brendan was kind of new in the industry, just like I was. And he had just written this book called Life's Golden Ticket. And on the front of the book, there's like this circus tent on it. And he told me, he's like, yeah, I sold the book. And people started reading it. And then I do these events, and they're in circus tents. He's explaining the whole thing. I'm like, this is so cool. I got to have a book. That was my thought. So for 10 years, I thought about a book, kept thinking about it, kept changing the title and changing it back and forth. But it took me a decade to finally sit down and like, okay, I'm gonna write this book. So I sat down and finally started writing it. I took a decade of my life, all these things I've been learning and studying and practicing and trying, right? All the funnels and the front end and the back end and copywriting, like just everything. And I put it into this book, right? And this was not like a fast little thing. This was a labor of love. Like I spent, 2 years or so researching, writing, putting it together, rewriting it, all the stuff to make the Dotcom Secrets book become a thing, right? And so again, ClickFunnels launches in September. I think the Dotcom Secrets book launch was in February or March. Really, like within the first 4 or 5 months, boom, we launched this book, and this book created the movement. People got it, right? And it's the doctrine or the dogma or whatever you want to call it, right? So we got the book, they read it, and they're like, oh my gosh, now I understand what Russell's trying to tell me because I read it inside of a book, right? The book gives them, again, the initial, if you think about this from a religious movement, it's the doctrine, right? Here's the doctrine of like the belief system that you and your following your movement has, right? Something they can read, they can talk about, they can like get behind, which is another reason why it's very important to write a good book and not a crappy book. So I'll leave that I'll go on a rant there here in a few seconds, but this book became that. So we launched it out in the world, people started reading it. We sold over 100,000 copies, and it became like the foundation for this movement, people to read it, understand it. And now they understood what we did, what we thought about, what we were teaching. And all of a sudden, like that was the first foundation point, right? And so the first of the two things I want to share with you, number one is like, if you want to create a movement, you've got to write a book. Right? The book is like, again, the doctrine or the dogma or the principles or whatever you want to call it for your people, for your movement, for your following, for the people you are bringing into the world to be able to help them, right? And they have something to look back to. Is like, this is like what the truth is. This is what the foundational core principles are, okay? Now I'm going to go down the rant about writing a good book. I want you to understand like why I'm not a big fan of like, hey, here's how to write a book in a weekend or have AI write your book or whatever. Like, in fact, I'm mildly obsessed with books. You probably noticed this. Just my background, if you watch the videos, there's a dozen or so books, but in the last 3 years, I've bought over 18,000 books, most of them first editions, rare books. Like I'm obsessed with books because I know what it takes to write a really, really good book, right? You can never, I don't know, maybe someday AI will get smarter than all of us. But like for me to write Dotcom Secrets, Expert Secrets, or Traffic Secrets, like the writing of the book was the most painful thing I'd ever gone through. It gets so painful to write a book. But by going through the process of writing and thinking and the putting things together, like all these like insane, like the process of writing the book is where all these insights, these ideas come. Like they all start, I don't know how to explain it other than when they first start writing a book, there's always like these siloed ideas. And you start writing a book, you have to put them together. And when you do it, you start seeing these connections, these interactions that never were there before. That's why when people are like, oh, I'm going to have AI write my book, or I'm going to speak on stage and then we'll transcribe and turn into a book or whatever, it's like you're missing it, or even a ghostwriter. Because like the magic of my books came from me like at 2 a.m, like wrestling between 2 or 3 different concepts. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this thing appears. And you're like, there's the answer. And all of a sudden it makes the book make sense, right? It's like you have to earn a book. You have to like birth it. And the reason why it's so important, because if somebody in your movement gets your book and your book sucks, okay, it will destroy everything quickly. In fact, I'm not going to say the person's name. A lot of you guys know who he is, or who this person, I should say. I said he, now cut it in half. But when I first got in this world, this person wrote a book and they kept talking about it. And I was like, this is so cool. And like, that was the person. I'm like, okay, that's the person I'm plugging into. This is my guru, right? And they wrote this book. They did a big product launch around it. It became an Amazon bestseller, all sorts of stuff, whatever. I buy the book, I get in the mail, and I'm so excited to read this book. Like I'm pumped. I'm on fire. Like you have no idea like how much I anxiously waited for this book. Cause I pre-ordered it while they're waiting for the pre-launch, right? And then they shipped it and the book shows up. I remember getting it. And I was so excited to read it. And I like blocked out time. I was sitting down, I was going to read it. I was going to study. I was going to devour. I'm going to like understand what's in this author's brain. And like, it'll be in my brain, right? It's like Tony Robbins calls it a decade in a day, right? Like a book gives you the ability to compress a decade of an author's life into a day and you can just read it. So I get the book, I sit down, I still have it on my shelf. I know exactly which one it is. And I start reading the book and it was horrible. It was like he had taken some teleseminars he had done, transcribed them, threw in a book. There were typos, there were misspellings. It didn't go deep. It was just like surface level fluff. And I remember I read that and I lost all respect for the person. I stopped following, stopped listening to him, and I was just like, that's it. You don't want that happening to someone gets your book, right? You need to give them the insights, the stories, that's how you create a really, really good book, okay? If you do that, that's one of the core things about creating a movement, right? So step number one, like if you want to really do this, like what are the foundational thoughts, beliefs, principles, things that you have that you believe in, that you can take and actually put into a book, okay? And create something that's really good. Again, like Dotcom Secrets, I'm proud of this book. Like I bled for this book. Like it was so hard, okay? For me, it takes me about 2 years to write a book on average. That's how much time and effort and energy I put into it. And obviously, I'm not, in fact, my first two books, I went with kind of a smaller publisher. And then my third book, I went to Hay House, which is a bigger publisher. And I remember we did the contract negotiations. I wasn't paying that much attention, signed a thing. And all of a sudden, like a week later in the mail, I get a check for a whole bunch of money. And I was like, what is this for? So I messaged them like, hey, I got a check. I haven't sold any books yet. Like, what's this for? Because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm used to like, I eat what I kill, right? Like I go kill something and then I get fed from it. Like for me to get money before I'd written the thing, it was so confusing. And they're like, oh, that's your forward or your advance. I'm like, what? What if I don't sell any books? How's this work? I need to pay it back. I was all stressed out. And they said, no, typically when you sign a book deal, the publishing house gives you enough money that you can live for the year. So you don't have to work. So you can actually write the book. And I was like, oh, that's how it works. Because for me, I'm working 8 hours a day running ClickFunnels. And then I'm like, 5 or 6 or 7 hours a day as a dad and a father. And then I got like 2 hours at night in the morning where I am writing my actual book, right? I was like, I didn't know that's how it worked. Anyway, I probably should have done that because I would have got the book done a lot faster. But for me, it's a longer process. I take a lot of time, but it's like, again, I'm trying to figure out those insights. Like I had someone recently who wanted to help co-author a book with me. And I started down the path and I was just like, this can't work because like the writing of the book is how I discovered these principles. By me being willing to go into the pages and into the work and do the stuff, that's where I believe God started implanting ideas and thoughts into my head that made it actually become something amazing. Had I just tried to go the easy way, the cheap way, and had AI or a ghostwriter or somebody do it, it wouldn't have been the same, okay? So that's the very, very first thing, all right? Okay, now while we're sitting here, you guys, just so you guys know, before I jump into number 2, I got this cool new setup in my office. In fact, I'm gonna show you, I'm on a gimbal, I got a couple cameras here. So check this out. The way I do my work, I've got 3 different monitors here. So I got a teleprompter right here, which is really, really cool. And I can put my notes here. If I'm doing a Zoom call, you do Zoom with someone and you're like you're looking down, you're trying to look at them because you're looking at their eyeballs. Now I can pull up into this thing right here. And then I could actually I can talk to the person and have eye-to-eye contact. Anyway, I'm really excited. And the other cool thing is I have a couple ads that I wrote for our stuff. And I can never do them in the past because I'm looking down in the ad and it didn't work in the video. But guess what? I got a teleprompter now, so I'm going to read 2 ads just for my own products because I thought that'd be awesome. So the very first one is for a company you may have heard of called ClickFunnels. Now, obviously, if you want to sell stuff online, you're going to need a good funnel. But if you want a great funnel, then you're going to need to use ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels is the #1 funnel builder in the world, helping more first-time entrepreneurs to leave their 9-to-5 and to launch their dream than any other company in the world. ClickFunnels was built for the dreamers and the doers, and you can grab a 14-day free trial by clicking on the link in the description or going to clickfunnels.com/podcast right now. ClickFunnels, because you're one funnel away from changing the world. How was that? My first ad read for myself. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know on the podcast we started selling ads over on the podcast. I've been doing reads for other companies. I thought this is way more fun to read for my own. Okay, number 2. So number 1, every mass movement of all time led with a book. Sit down, figure out your doctrines for your people, write a book. Like it'll change you. It'll change things for you more than anything else you can do. In fact, if you look at this, I've been in this business now for like 23, 24 years, right? I've launched so many courses, so many events, so many masterminds, so many things. And it's crazy because the only thing people come up to me later on and say, hey, Russell, you changed my life. Your book changed my life. That's the word. It's always your book changed my life. It's never that event. It's never that course. It's never the book is the thing. It's the thing that lasts beyond the life of the author. If you want legacy, if you want to live forever through your words, the book is the thing that actually does that. Okay. Like that's how important it is. That's why I'm obsessed with it. In fact, I remember, back in the day, I do this product launches, see a big spike in sales and it dropped, another launch. And we were doing launches multiple times a year. That's how I made our money. When we launched ClickFunnels, started getting recurring revenue. It was crazy because it went like this, really small, and it got bigger to the point where every single day I check my Stripe app and it's $500,000 is there every morning before I wake up. And it's just like, this is insane. Okay, what's happening? And so then when we do these launches, I do a launch of a course. It's like, boop, you see this little blip, blip, like it barely registers on the thing. I'm like, what? Right? And I would launch a book, a little blip, blip. And what I found is that almost anything I launched didn't actually have any long-term impact. There's no long-term impact. Sales, the impact was so minuscule, it didn't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. And the only thing that lasted beyond the launch was the book. The only thing that lasts beyond the life of the author is the book, right? Think about this. Napoleon Hill, why do we know him? He wrote books that are still around, right? I think about people I know who run huge mega events, right? When they die and those events disappear, so does the legacy. It goes away, right? Like the book is the only thing that outlives the author. So write a book. All right, that's number 1. Number 2 now. Second thing is if you want to create a movement and be like the leader in your industry, you have got to basically plant a flag in the middle and say, this is the industry event. We are the one, okay? Funnel Hacking Live 10 years ago. It was crazy. If you look at the timeline of events, right? Way back in the day, there were two events. There was an internet marketing event, Armin Morin's big seminar, and then there's Dan Kennedy's Info Summit and Super Conference, right? And those were the two big things happening in the marketing world, right? The internet version and then the direct selling version. Then eventually Yannick Silver came out with the Underground. That became the second one. So there were two big internet marketing seminars and then the two direct response. So those were events like you had to be at every single year, right? Fast forward 2008, 2009, economy crashes, events dry up, everyone cancels their events, no events for 4 or 5 years. Then they come back, first event happens, TNC. Ryan Deiss, Perry Belcher launched TNC, an amazing event. It used to be you go to TNC and it was just Ryan and Perry teaching. I love both those guys. I think I could listen to Perry tell stories for days. Like he's my favorite storyteller ever. And so we'd go to the event because I want to hear Ryan and Perry. And then as it started getting bigger, the event got bigger. They started bringing more speakers, and Ryan and Perry got less and less and less. And eventually got to the point where they had like 90 speakers. They had all these different breakout rooms. And if you go to the event, you might hear Perry talk once and Ryan talk once, and that was it. And that's when I stopped going to TNC. And I remember that as my feeling as a consumer. I was just like, this is great, but like I came for those guys and they're no longer speaking. There's a whole bunch of people. And I watched over the years that event got smaller and ours started getting bigger. So when we launched ours, Funnel Hacking Live, there was TNC and they were the biggest. Like I think at the time they were getting like 3,000 people in the event. I'm like, how do I compete with that? I'm like, well, we're going to because I want to create my own version. So I had to put the flag in like, I'm going to create the industry event, and it became Funnel Hacking Live. Okay, we launched it, did the very first one, we had 600 people at it, right? Second one, we had 1,200, and it kept growing and growing and growing over time. And eventually, what was cool was that the event gave us the ability where our people, not all of our people, right? But it's the bottom of the funnel, right? The bottom of the funnel are the people who are the most hardcore, that are the craziest, that are the most fun. Like those are the people that came to the event, right? And so also you get the energy of like, who are the people that care the most? And they show up, it's like, oh, these are our people. And they're just like me. They're obsessed with the stuff. They're like high energy, they're crazy. And that's how we built Funnel Hacking Live, right? Like our dream people, or the bottom of the funnel, came to the event, like the best people, right? And then what happened is like when they're there, it builds culture, it builds excitement. And those people go out to the rest of the world. They take that energy and they resonate out to the rest of the world, right? So even though only 4,000 or 5,000 people were able to come to Funnel Hacking Live at a time, the energy of that when it goes back out, just like ripple effects into the industry, right? So it's such a powerful thing. It brings your people together, gives them time to network, to hang out. It gives you the ability to like speak directly to the people and like tell them what you're doing, what the future is, like what's happening, right? I started thinking back about the Send Out Cards event when I got there, right? People were on stage and I remember they had the CEO and the head tech guy get up and show the new features. I was like, okay, we got it. Like, this is the cool thing, right? Steve Jobs at their big event, he'd always come out in his black turtleneck and he would show the thing, right? So like we needed an event so we could show like what we were doing, what we were creating, right? That's our thing about Send Out Cards, right? They had people who would come on stage, right? People, and they would cry, they'd tell their story. I'm like, that's what we need. Like have our members come and talk and share their stories, right? And then they gave away awards. I'm like, we need to have awards. Like this is how you create a movement, right? And so we built an event that wasn't just like every other event. Every other event at a time, there were a couple of versions. It used to be, you'd have multi-speaker, every single speaker get online, get on, and they would everyone have a chance to sell. And they call them pitch fest sometimes. That was like how events were back in the day, way back in the day. And then after the crash, when it happened again, it was different. And I remember with TNC, they came in and they would run the whole event, and maybe they might pitch one thing, or sometimes they didn't pitch anything. They sold a lot more like sponsors and booths and stuff like that. And for us, I was like, I don't really want to be in the sponsor booth game. I want people in the room, and I want to be able to sell like coaching, the next thing, right? So it gave us the ability to sell our coaching program. It gave us the ability to highlight students and testimonials and find out who our people were, so we could go find those people and then later go to their homes and film them telling their stories and all sorts of stuff, right? Like it just became the thing, like having the industry event. And so for you, if you really want to create a movement, after you've written your book, the next phase, like you need to create an event. You need to be one putting planting the flag and like, this is the thing, this is my event, and this is where people in our industry go. Even if like you have no right of saying that initially, right? Like we didn't. We have TNC have 3,000 to 5,000 people at these events. We get, first one, 600, right? They were way bigger than us. And we kept trying to get bigger and trying to get bigger. And eventually we got a spot where we were similar. Like we were 3,000 or 4,000 people there, 3,000 or 4,000 people. And then COVID hit, right? Everything collapses, shrinks down. And then right after COVID, we both launched our events weeks. Like we didn't realize this when we launched it, but it just happened. Like theirs was week number 1, ours week number 2. I was like, oh man. And like now we're competing. Now people got to pick, like we're going this one or this one, right? And so they do their event. And so I'm home it's just like this week. I'm here doing slides during the event and TNC's happening. And so, but we sent a bunch of our team down there to go check it out. And it's crazy. You look in the ballroom, it was set for like 3,000 people. And during the opening keynote, there were about 30, maybe 50 people in there, maybe 100 people. And my team was sending me videos and like, this place is empty. And I was like, oh crap, we're in COVID. People are not going to come to events. Like we just saw that. I was so scared. And for us, like we spent so much money. Like it could have been really, really bad for us if people didn't show up because there's a lot of money that goes into events. There's a lot of things you guarantee the hotel, like a room block, how many rooms you get, like it can be a really expensive learning lesson. And anyway, but because like the people that came to the bottom of our funnel, like they are the crazy ones, the 1% crazies, the funnel hackers, like the most insane people, right? 1 week later, we go to ours and it was packed from back to front, wall to wall. It is packed. And it was crazy. And I remember, I can't remember if it was that Funnel Hacking Live or the next one, but Perry Belcher spoke at it. And then Perry messaged me on Messenger afterwards. And he's like, congratulations, man, your event won. And I was like, oh, I knew we were competing. I didn't know he knew we were competing, but he said that. And I was like for me, I was just like, we became the industry event. And how did we do that? Right? It's like coming back, and it wasn't just like, let's make a convention and booths and speakers, like let's create a movement, right? Like, let's look at how network marketing, let's look at how other ways did it. How do we bring those things in to make something that's really, truly special and different? That's what we do with Funnel Hacking Live. And now we're 10 years into it. This is our 10th, technically it's our 11th one because we did a virtual international one 6 months ago. So technically it's our 11th, it's our FHL 10, The Last Dance. And it's weird because people keep asking, like, why would you stop this? Like, you're the industry event, you're the biggest one. We're like, why would you stop this? And it's weird because like we're stopping ours, and our TNC got canceled this year. They shut it down. Grant Cardone's got a huge event. This is his last year. It's kind of weird. Like all of us are kind of ending these things. And I think a couple reasons. Number one is like, if you're going to do an industry event, like it's a lot of work. For us, it's a 10-month cycle. So we do the event. We have 2 months just like, and then it's like, okay, back at it. Like we're promote the next one, sell the tickets, get the speakers, line it up. Like it's a lot. And we've been doing it for a decade. And honestly, I'm tired. Number two is I'm working on something else. By doing the event we did, when we first launched Funnel Hacking Live, like it was very unique. It was very different. People came like, this is not like normal events. This is not like anything else they've ever experienced. Even the way we captured, the way that we did our videos, like everything was different. And it was really special. And then over time, people started modeling us and funnel hacking us and copying us, right? And now it's like 10 years later, looking like most events look like Funnel Hacking Live. Like people understand, like we figured out a formula, they're modeling it. And it's amazing. But like, this is the reality, is I'm not done doing events by any stretch of the imagination. I want to do something different. I want to do something better, but I need some time to reset. With Funnel Hacking Live, it's hard because we have a framework and things that people expect, right? So it's like every year it's like that, a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bit bigger, right? And for me to do what I want to do in the near future, to create the new industry event, it has to be different. And I had to reset. I couldn't just be FHL 11 now because it's a little different. Like it needed to be a huge reset. I needed space and time to like rethink through it and how to make something amazing. So that's the reason why we're stopping Funnel Hacking Live, but it's still part of the thing, right? Part of the movement, writing a book, creating an event. And that is how you build a movement. That's how we built ClickFunnels. That's how we get a spot now where we're a software company who's literally taking on $0 in funding. We're the last of our competitors to not take on money. All the rest sold out, right? We're the last ones who are sticking to the bootstrap story, and it's been amazing, right? We've passed $1 billion in sales, 3 Comma Club Award, let's go. By the way, we did design it. I'm gonna show you guys that at Funnel Hacking Live, because I want all you guys to make that a goal to go after 3 Comma Club Award. We did it because of these things, right? Obviously funnels are key, but we did it with a front end book, with a with a live event. Those are the 2 core things to actually create a movement. So that's what I want to share with you guys today. I hope that it helps get the wheels in your head spinning, right? Every mass movement was built initially with the book, right? All of them throughout time, throughout history, right? And then if you want to create this movement, you got to become like, put your flag in the ground, like I'm going to become the industry event. This is where people come to gather. This is the spot. When you do those 2 things, that's how you start finding your people and bringing them together. Now they've got the doctrine of the movement you are creating. They've got the people together. Again, give them a name, funnel hackers, whatever you want to call your people, and then give them identity, have them come together, and then you can serve them. And it's just it's a fun, powerful, exciting thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Hope you learned a lot. I got one more. Can I read one more ad? Because I'm here. This will be a fun one for me as well. This is for our Selling Online event, which is insane. We do this once a month, and it's one of the best things I've ever done. It is a virtual event, so you can do it from the comfort of your home. But here you go. Here is the ad read. Here we go. Do you have a funnel, but it's not converting? The problem is 99% of the time it's, let me fix this ad. Editors don't edit this. We'll keep it in so they can see me messing up, okay? Okay. Do you have a funnel, but it's not converting? The problem 99.9% of the time is your funnel is good, but you suck at selling. If you want to learn how to sell so that your funnels will actually convert, then get a ticket to my next Selling Online event by clicking on the link in the description or going to sellingonline.com/podcast. Look at me reading ads. Like I feel like a professional podcast host. After 1,200 episodes, whatever, I'm finally becoming like legit host. A lot of guys on my team have been listening to podcasts like, I don't like having hearing the other ads. I'm like, I know, it's okay. But these are cool companies with cool products, and they're willing to host, to promote, to dump ad money into this. And what's cool for us, we take all the ad money and we use it to drive more people back to the podcast. so we'll continue to grow. So if you want to help me in the process, what I would love to do is tell people about new podcasts, either on the YouTube channel or on the podcast or both. Share it with other people. That's how you can help serve me selfishly back for any of the stuff I'm giving to you guys. And that way more people start listening to podcasts. Again, all the money we make from sponsors goes 100% back into just promoting the podcast, getting more people on here so I can keep serving you guys. Because for me, like in my life right now, again, everything's about impact. And so for me, it's like, if I'm going to spend an hour a day doing a podcast like this, like what's the return on investment? Like, what does it look like? And for me, it's like how many listeners? And so as that number is growing and growing and growing, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put more time, more effort, more energy into it. The podcast is huge right now. It's growing very, very quickly, which is awesome. YouTube channel is kind of more new. I've been doing YouTube stuff for a long time. We tried a lot of formats and I was like, I'm really enjoying this. So if you're watching on YouTube, I know it's a different format I was doing in the past. And it's a little different from YouTube, but my goal is to keep this going for a while and see if I can get you guys all on YouTube converted to like enjoying it and sharing it, because if I can do that, then it's pretty cool. So that's it, you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with me for this episode. If you liked it, again, let me know in the comments, share it with a friend. I appreciate you guys. And for those of you guys who will be at Funnel Hacking Live, by the time this is live, the show will probably be done. But I'm excited to hang out with you guys and serve you guys one last time for the biggest event in the world. And just know that I'm there. And again, it's the last of the Funnel Hacking Lives, but it's not the end of an era. It is the beginning of something amazing that will be coming very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.